What makes us happy? How do we find greater life satisfaction? And why are some people happier than others? These are just a few questions we are all sure to have asked ourselves at one point or another. The answer to these questions is simple, but may not be what you expect. So, what's the answer? Well, you guessed it. The answer is pie. If you don't believe me, just listen. Now, if only the real answer to these complex questions was as simple as a fresh-baked pumpkin pie, wouldn't that be nice? I mean, that would explain why Thanksgiving is such a happy time for many people. Well, maybe, but let's take a deeper look into a different type of pie. And ironically enough, we may even answer the question as to why Thanksgiving is such a happy time after all. The positive psychologist Sonia Lyubomirsky developed a visual that allows us to see what determines happiness. Now here's the real pie we're talking about, and while it may not be as pretty as the ones we see around Thanksgiving, it can help us understand more about what makes people really happy. Let's start over here with the biggest section. This slice of pie constitutes 50% of our overall happiness. It represents a kind of preset measure within each of us. What this means is that genetics actually play a role in our happiness. This supports the fact that some people are actually born happier than others. A simple way to describe this would be to imagine a thermometer. Let's say the temperature of this thermometer is 70 degrees. If we were to expose this thermometer to a flame or a sudden burst of heat, the temperature would rise for a time. When that heat is removed, however, it would return to roughly 70 degrees. We could use the same example with ice or a chilled environment. And the same is true of our happiness levels. However, that's only half of the pie, and there's much more that we can control in regards to our happiness. If you're like me, you may think the answer to how to become happier lies in the circumstances of our lives. This could include a fancy car, a nice house, marriage, or even a romantic relationship. And last but not least, money. If you think this, you are definitely not alone. But the crazy reality is that the circumstances of our life, or the things we have or do not have, only account for 10% of our overall happiness. Getting these things may increase our happiness for a time, but if you remember the thermometer, eventually we get used to these things, as big or great as they might be. If you're a little confused and even a little disheartened right now, don't worry. You may be thinking, well, if happiness isn't solely genetic, and the things I have or my circumstances don't really make me lastingly happy, then what is it? And here's the good news, and hopefully news that will change your perspective on happiness. The final slice of the pie, which constitutes 40%, is actually something you have 100% control of. We call this section intentional activity. The things in this slice that contribute to happiness are completely voluntary, and you can choose at any time to start practicing them. Here's where it gets exciting. Lyubomirsky's study on intentional activity gives many ideas for us to apply. She found that truly happy people spent substantial amounts of time nurturing and developing relationships with family and friends. They were quick to offer help or service to coworkers and even strangers they met throughout the day. Physical exercise was a regular habit, weekly and even daily. And the list goes on. They practiced optimism and learned to savor life's pleasures. And they were committed to goals and ambition. One last attribute we should highlight is gratitude. While the impact of what we have only contributes a small amount to our happiness, our gratitude for what we have plays a huge and even an essential role. In fact, no other result found in positive psychology research has been shown to improve happiness and well-being more than gratitude. Now let's go back to our Thanksgiving example in the original pie. Knowing that gratitude is a significant factor for happiness, it makes sense why Thanksgiving can be such a happy time. Of course, the happiness research points to is more than just isolated events or sporadic and spontaneous things of gratitude, but rather gratitude becoming a regular and comfortable part of who we are.